high priestess. And they would, because you said it in such a way, first of all, like you couldn't be more bothered.
The camera's on.
Couldn't be more bothered to love you.
Peace. Welcome to the channel. Today I am interviewing world famous astrologer extraordinaire Fernando Prudhomme of the People's Astrologer and the New School of Alexandria. He's here with us today to discuss astrology and its importance and the role it plays in our lives moving forward and from the past as well. Welcome, Mr. Prudhomme.
Hi, how are you?
How are you feeling today?
Good and nostalgic and happy, but I don't know why. I've always been like that.
Really?
I always wake up with happiness. But I give thanks to the Creator, and I think that sets it up for the whole day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We should all start the day with gratitude.
Always.
Always. All right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the chance to interview. I don't do interviews, so I don't know why I'm doing the interview for you. I don't know, something very disarming and trustworthy.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, then I don't trust many people though.
Okay. First question we have is, how does one know that they are chosen? A shaman, a psychic, if they don't see that growing up in their home or under traditional religion?
Well, two things can happen. You mentioned if they weren't raised
Yes.
in a spiritual environment, right? Which includes candles, saints, still in the Catholic Church. That's a spiritual environment. They light candles there, they burn incense. It's not that much different than if you are doing it in your own personal space. But one category of knowing that you have the gift, even though you were not raised with even the word spirit being mentioned in the house, let alone an altar, or people that don't go to church and grew up not going to church. They're Christians, but they don't go to church, they don't go to Sunday school. It would not be that much different from them. The answer to that question, it is a three-part question. The answer to that first question, is question 1, B, then 2 and 3. That would have to be broken in half because we got people that are non-spiritual, atheists, or don't believe God for whatever reason. That's a different category as well. So if you don't have any of those external supporters or indicators that you may come from a spiritual lineage, then you will be told in dreams.
That would be the easiest way to know.
I know because the person doesn't have to accept it.
Right.
So it's not the easiest. But that is one avenue. If you were born with in a spiritual environment, which includes seeing your mother or your grandmother having an altar, other friends do the same thing, that's a community. If you were born surrounded by that, like I was, I already knew that I was part of the gift.
Right. Because
those who live in spiritual awareness and understand that spiritually, understand ancestral worship and the importance of the bloodline.
Right.
So when I was 4 years old, I knew how important the bloodlines are and what happens in one generation can curse the next. So I grew up understanding that, seeing that, and learning principles because I was an initiator when I was a child.
Mm-hmm. So it's more the personal experiences that they have as an individual rather than what's being forced upon them.
Both. It's both. Because you have to make a choice to go spiritual. If you're going to make a choice to do that, then you're going to make the choices to move in accordance to the spirit rules and standards, and expectation on your part. You already, like that, they will ask, like a normal person, they wouldn't ask for kind of questions because they're still not in consciousness to connect that way. Uh, yeah, that answers A and B, right? People who are spiritual and have the environment to prove it, like an altar, it's like that, or none. So I think, yeah. The spirit will tell you if you didn't have or come from a spiritual environment. If it's non-spiritual because you have it, you're gonna experience guides. These are, yeah, the church calls them guides. We do too, but they're archons. The church calls them angels, but they're not angels. They're archons. We really don't understand much about them, but like we have those entities, there's also negative ones.
Right.
Like reptilians, which is considered another group of archons, much more earthbound, which means that the ego and the lower nature will be ascended. Right. And it's also a vampire race, the harvest energy. Yeah. So we have those beings and other beings, and as a child, I knew each category because I grew up watching them. Even though regular human beings don't have the third eye open, I do because I was born psychic and special. The doctor removed the veil from my face when I was born. They have to cut it. And he told my mom, one of your children is born with a veil. And that's when people knew. You have to be born with a veil. Okay. So I was born in this world, magical world, since birth. Mm-hmm.
Okay, our next question is, how would you say spiritual practices, as we just discussed, occult and astrology are all connected?
Well, astrology is something that the church forbade, and St. Augustine, who many people don't mention, and the church doesn't mention it, but St. Augustine was an astrologer, and a very good one. But he also loved the church and the establishment that the church was proposing towards the closing of that century. I remember the church came into existence when Paul died, and this was 90 AD. Mm-hmm. And 90 AD spawned the beginning of the church era, which is with us to this day. And they forbade astrology. Before we had saints and painted windows in the Catholic Church, we had stars and constellations. Mm-hmm. That was St. Augustine. But when the church gave him an ultimatum, either you be a Catholic priest or an astrologer. He chose Catholic priest, so they changed the tainted windows from the constellations to actual canonized and personified saints. And that's where that comes from. You know? But Augustine was the greatest astrologer the Catholic Church ever had. And that explains the observatory at the Vatican, because there was a time where it was embraced.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Mm-hmm. And I've seen recently some historical documentaries discussing actually having an astrologer kind of on staff or within the court.
Mm-hmm. They did before?
And using them to predict events or when to take action on certain political issues. They would actually consult the astrologer or consult what was happening in the heavens, like we talk about the retrogrades.
Well, can I answer?
Yeah, you answered number 2. Oh, you want to expand on that some more?
That was a good question. My goodness. You said something about...
What is it?
I don't remember. That happens as a person with psychic. Sometimes they take away the information.
Having the astrologer on staff, kind of?
Oh, yes. On staff, which was illegal, or still is in the United States. If you're going to be a psychiatrist or psychotherapist or social worker, you have to use those tools and respect those principles that govern those professions. Mm-hmm. The thing is that astrology, especially clinical astrology, which was a big thing in the 80s, which is on merit of respect, Whereas many patients from psychologists or psychotherapists or social workers will come to an astrologer and actually get better service in the sense that there's an openness that allows spirituality to be a consideration, where in the clinical psychological profession there is none. Right. Everything is data, quantitative, qualitative, things like that. Right. And proving targets and indicators and outcomes. That's that clinical world. Not in astrology, but we do have other tools that parallel each other.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good answer.
Thank you. The thing about the senators, the people back in the day consulted astrologers, the movers and shakers that ran the country. Mm-hmm. That has not stopped. That's still going on. I can't tell you how many congressmen have come to me and other heads of state for astrological council that I cannot discuss, to let you know that when yesterday is happening today, and what goes around comes around. What came before will come again. So yes, they are still consulting astrologers behind the people's back, mm-hmm. and then judging them when they try to do it, mm-hmm. through the church, of course. Okay. But the church are the biggest wizards and magicians that you can ever imagine.
Number 3, what do you hope to accomplish with your students who enroll in the New School of Alexandria?
To become better astrologers than I am today.
Okay, so that kind of piggybacks, the next question kind of piggybacks on that. Why do you think there's a new interest in tarot and astrology among the youth now?
Because the youth have lost faith in the established government, which has done nothing but lie to them and use them as collateral for their own wealth and power. And they don't want to make the same mistakes that my generation did, and they want to find their own answers. And astrology seems to be the vehicle that they can begin. Not like that it'll end there, but it's a better foundation than the crap we've been giving them and ourselves since we were young. Like the fish took Jonah for 3 days. No fish or whale can do that. Someone survived in there, but we bought it. We bought that. Clearly, you can't have no one living 3 days and not in a whale. But we bought it. We bought it. It shows the gullibility of a time. And this generation, if they smell bullshit, it is. And they're not going to follow that anymore. But they want the answers for themselves instead of being dictated to and run the risk that it will be dishonest information or occult information. They want to seek those answers, and astrology gives them that space to explore without prejudice.
And I think that's admirable, to not just take what you've been given mm-hmm. and accept it for face value, but actually to do the research behind it and to call people out and say, no, well, prove that to me. How do you justify what you're teaching me? You know?
See, with the clinical sciences, it's very abstract. But with astrology, it can be proven specifically.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess that kind of leads into our next question, which is, what do you feel is the future of astrology?
Great. It'll be better like the days of Alexandria. Because it will be embraced societally. Now, witches will burn out the state because they couldn't practice in open society, so they had to do it private. Only worshiping the mystery and the strange lifestyle of early witches. So it's not so much the person. Society also has to be ready.
Right.
And it has to be made of generations that are more open-minded and more willing to find their own answers. And that is the Aquarian principle.
Absolutely.
Jesus said in the book of Matthew, seek your own salvation. So this isn't anything new. It was mentioned in the classical world in the day of Jesus, and also in the days of Moses, which was thousands of years earlier. Like I said, nothing is new under the sun.
Okay. Where do you see yourself, Fernando Prudhomme, in 10 years?
In a beach in Waikiki with my Speedos on, still like 60, 70, with a martini.
My goodness.
One can dream, right?
Well, you could do that now.
Y'all know?
Why wait?
Oh no, these apps, what they've been doing. I have to restructure 3 of my companies that was almost taken to the ground by my darling twin brother.
They hold no power here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And our last question, Mr. Prudhomme, before we end and conclude our wonderful, engaging interview with you today. Who is Fernando Prudhomme? Who are you?
Well, I come from the planetary system of Cyprus. I always tell people that, and I almost had to stop because the psychiatrist was going to change his mind and take out that white coat.
They call the white coats for you?
Oh, they interviewed me for my whole life. I was always being evaluated, psychiatric evaluations, which are on record. So I was always evaluated by psychiatrists, psychotherapists, and they have all kinds of theories. Or he's schizophrenic, or he's schizophrenic type 1. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with me, with my mind. I'm telling you, you're looking at the flesh, but my soul comes from another system, as it is with most of you. But you know that when it's your turn to evolve and have those doors open, or Kabbalah to receive, when you're ready for Kabbalah, then you'll be open.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, Mr. Prudhomme.
Yeah.
And we also want to let you know that the occult classes that you're offering are still available.
Yes.
And we can contact you for that through is it phone number or your email or?
We can put the email as well as the phone number.
Okay.
Many emails are old from years after I have been attacked, spiritually. So I have to clear a lot of the emails, and they're in the close to 90,000 emails. As my popularity continues to grow, so I may have to now get a staff to deal with the emails, so it doesn't become overwhelming.
Okay, but they can view the description of the courses
and my website
on your website, which is thepeoplesastrologer.com, correct?
Yes.
All right, and you are available for tarot readings, personal readings, and birth chart delineation services are also available through the People's Astrologer. Make sure you follow Mr. Prudhomme at the People's Astrologer on YouTube, Instagram, and make sure you follow myself as well, Child of Oshun, on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for having us, Mr. Prudhomme. Peace
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you.
Peace. Ashe.